country and witnessed the tragic deaths of her parents. Holding a knife, she charged at the murderer, Michael, but was stopped by a young man named James, Michael's loyal assistant. Just as Michael was about to shoot Anna, James grabbed his gun and told him that such a trivial matter didn't require Michael's involvement, and he would handle it. With a smile, James raised his gun and shot Anna. She fell to the ground, and then James ordered his subordinates to drag her away and bury her. One of the men, unable to resist his desire, attempted to assault Anna, but was knocked unconscious by a man wearing a black mask. As Anna opened her eyes, she vaguely saw the man. The masked man picked her up and disappeared into the night. In his heart, he apologized to her, regretting that he was too late to save her parents. He placed her at the doorstep of her childhood friend Luis's house, rang the bell, and left, believing that Luis would surely save her. When Luis opened the door and saw Anna, gravely injured and unconscious, he rushed to carry her inside. In truth, the masked man was James. He recalled 16 years ago when he was not yet named James, but Bruce. His father, Tom, a righteous policeman, had been killed by criminals for protecting evidence. With tears in his eyes, he vowed to find the evidence in Michael's organization and avenge his father. Anna had nightmares, reliving the horrific scene of her parents' deaths. She woke up from the nightmare, and Luis told her that the bullet had nearly hit her heart, but she was lucky to survive. She had been unconscious for 7 days since she returned from the hospital. She was filled with rage and wanted to kill those responsible for her parents' deaths, but Luis held her and urged her to calm down. Anna cried in his arms, unaware that he was hiding a big secret. She remembered the man with the black mask and thought he might be Luis. She thanked Luis for saving her, and he didn't deny it. Anna silently vowed to infiltrate Michael's organization and kill both Michael and James. While Michael was interrogating a hostage, James drove in, throwing something out of his car. Michael's men thought it was a bomb and panicked, but it was actually a smoke grenade. In the confusion, James took the hostage away. Michael slapped his subordinate, David, criticizing him for being less capable than James. However, what Michael didn't know was that the masked man who had taken the hostage was actually James. Michael was furious because the license plate of the car used by the masked man was identical to the one that had belonged to the policeman Tom, and the masked man had repeatedly sabotaged the group's operations. Michael ordered his men to find out the identity of the mysterious man within a month. James delivered the hostage to a safe place and then hid his car. He slowly removed his mask and jacket, revealing his handsome face. He entered the elevator at the group's headquarters, where his identity naturally shifted back to being Michael's trusted assistant. Michael said he had killed a policeman 16 years ago, but that policeman had hidden crucial evidence in a car, which then went missing. He tested James by asking if he had seen the car. James replied that he hadn't. Michael then ordered James to investigate the car, saying he had high hopes for him. However, James knew that Michael was very suspicious. Even though James had been working for him for many years, Michael still did not trust him completely. Luis gave Anna a fake ID, so from that day on, she was no longer Anna, but Emma, an orphan who had grown up in an orphanage. To avoid suspicion, Luis suggested that she pretend to be his fake girlfriend, which she agreed to. Emma went to Michael's group for an interview and was hired as a secretary due to her beautiful appearance. Just as she was about to leave, she ran into James. She suppressed her urge to kill him and pretended not to recognize him. James stared at her for a long time, considering how to get her fired, but the HR manager mistakenly thought that James was interested in Emma and made her his personal secretary. Emma accompanied James to entertain clients. During dinner, he received a call informing him that the hostage he had saved a few days ago had committed suicide in prison, destroying all the evidence before dying. When James returned to the room, he found a lecherous client trying to force wine into Emma. Furious, he kicked the client to the ground and ordered them to leave. He wanted to take Emma to the hospital, but she resisted. At that moment, Michael happened to pass by. To prevent Michael from recognizing her, James hugged her waist and kissed her. Michael thought she was James's woman and didn't pay much attention. James carried Emma into the hotel room as she was heavily intoxicated and struggling. In the process, he accidentally kissed her lips. He quickly got up, but she grabbed his tie and pulled him closer, making him feel a bit shy. He noticed the strong smell of alcohol on his suit jacket, so he took it off and threw it onto Emma. He then removed his tie and started unbuttoning his shirt. Just then, Emma woke up and, thinking he was trying to assault her, screamed in fear. He felt speechless because he only wanted to take a shower. Emma rushed into the bathroom and saw James just after his shower. She picked up a knife and charged at him, trying to kill him, but he quickly knocked the knife out of her hand and pinned her against the wall. She thought her identity would soon be exposed, but he simply said, "Don't try to seduce your boss," and then left. The next day, James deliberately made things difficult for Emma, finding an excuse to fire her. The HR manager took her into his office and attempted to assault her, but she grabbed something from the desk and smashed it into his head. The manager, furious, slapped her and then choked her. As she struggled desperately, James pushed the manager aside and punched him. He realized that Emma was already being targeted by other people in the organization, and rather than letting her be out there, it would be safer for her to stay close to him. He took off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders, telling her she could stay in the company. The HR manager, thinking James was away on a business trip, decided to take advantage of the situation and get revenge on Emma. He subtly hinted to the lecherous David to harass her. David had never liked James, and when he learned that Emma was James's woman, he became even more interested in her. James saw Emma being dragged into David's car and became very anxious. However, he couldn't confront David using his own identity, so he put on a black mask and went to rescue Emma. David and his men raised sticks to hit James, but he quickly defeated them. He called the police, then slowly approached Emma. She thought he was going to hurt her, but instead, he picked her up and she accidentally kissed his earlobe. She felt that he seemed familiar and was sure she had seen him somewhere, but couldn't recall where. Michael, learning that David had been arrested by the police, became furious and decided to find out who the woman was who had clashed with David the night before. Emma worried that the manager might leak the information, but then she learned that he had resigned today due to illness. It turned out that James had already eliminated all the threats for her. The manager had been arrested by the police for prostitution. Emma encountered Rose at the company. Although they had been roommates abroad, their relationship was very poor. Emma pretended not to know Rose, but Rose immediately recognized her. She stopped Emma and pointed out that Anna had a red birthmark on her arm, and she noticed that Emma had the same one. Colleagues began to speculate that Anna might not be dead, but just as things were getting tense, James arrived and helped Emma out of the situation. Rose wanted to continue questioning Emma, but James sternly warned her to keep quiet. Left with no choice, Rose apologized to Emma, saying she had mistaken her for someone else. James then took Emma back to his office and directly exposed her true identity, calling her Anna. She was shocked, but James grabbed her arm and warned her to stay close to him and not cause any trouble. When he realized Michael was about to walk in, he forcefully kissed Emma to prevent her from being seen by Michael. Emma, furious, pushed him away and slapped him. They were both on edge, but James still didn't recognize her as Anna. He simply thought she was the girl James had been with in the hotel that day. That evening, Emma burned paper money to honor her parents and swore to kill Michael to avenge them. James told her she couldn't do it. She angrily retorted and stabbed him with a knife, but he didn't avoid it. Surprised and panicked, she asked why he hadn't dodged. To protect her, he didn't reveal the truth, but instead ordered her to stay by his side. Michael captured a spy planted in the group by the police. The spy tried to kill Michael, but James shot him and ordered his men to drag him away. Emma, who had been secretly following them, saw the entire scene and was both shocked and scared. The subordinates thought the spy was dead and casually discarded his body in a remote area. Emma, gathering her courage, approached and found that the spy was still alive. She decided to take him to the hospital. The shot was actually intentionally missed by James, as he wanted to leave the spy a chance to escape. Emma told Luis about her job at Michael's company. He was angry and told her it was a dangerous move, but she insisted that she could never feel at peace unless she avenged her parents. What she didn't know was that the Luis she trusted was actually an accomplice of Michael. A month earlier, Luis had visited Michael and, knowing Michael was searching for a valuable high-tech patent, had specifically warned him that the patent was in the hands of Emma's parents. It was because of his betrayal that Emma's parents were brutally killed. The next day, Luis saw James holding Emma and learned that she had become James's personal secretary. He was both jealous and worried about her, demanding that she quit immediately. However, Emma decisively refused. James took his secretary, Emma, on a business trip to another city. When they arrived at the hotel, the receptionist asked how many rooms they wanted. Just as Emma was about to say 2, she saw Michael walking toward them. In order to pretend to be a couple in front of Michael, they decided to book one room. However, Michael was very suspicious and instructed his subordinates to eavesdrop on James and Emma to see if they were really a couple. Emma noticed some noise outside the door, so she pulled James onto the sofa and even screamed, in a loud voice. James, confused, tried to stand up, but she reminded him that there were people listening outside the door and asked him to scream as well. But James felt shy and couldn't bring himself to do it. Michael's subordinates, wondering why there was no sound coming from the room, began to suspect that they were pretending to be a couple and burst into the room. In a hurry, James took off Emma's coat and kissed her neck. The subordinates looked at them awkwardly, then quickly ran out of the room. Emma secretly planted a listening device in James's pocket and heard that he had a secret mission in room 805 of the hotel that night. She contacted the police, hoping they could arrive in time to arrest James. After hanging up, she remembered how James had saved her many times before, and her feelings became complicated. However, she reminded herself not to be soft-hearted. He was an accomplice in the murder of her parents. At that moment, James returned. Emma was startled and wondered why he hadn't been arrested. James had already discovered the listening device in his pocket, but he was an undercover cop arranged by the police, so how could he be arrested? The police called to inform him that they had found his father's car. Tom had entrusted the car to his old comrade Alan for safekeeping. Later, Alan had changed the license plate and repainted the car, so it had remained hidden for all these years. Meanwhile, Michael also discovered the lead. He wanted to capture Alan, but James arrived just in time, throwing a smoke bomb at Michael. In the smoke, James told Alan that he was Tom's son and asked him to escape to a safe place with the promise of meeting again later. Michael, furious, fired several shots. James used his excellent driving skills to evade Michael's pursuit. But after he got out of the car, he collapsed on the ground, weak from blood loss. It turned out that one of Michael's bullets had hit him. Due to excessive blood loss, he lost consciousness. Emma located him using the signal from the listening device. She recognized him as the mysterious man who had saved her multiple times. She then removed his mask and was shocked to discover that the mysterious man was James. She recalled all the previous details and realized that James had intentionally missed the shot to save her life. When he woke up, she told him that Michael already knew that the masked man was Tom's son, Bruce. However, she had already burned all of James's suspicious clothes, so Michael still didn't know his true identity. James confessed to her that he was an undercover cop and told her his story. His father had been tortured to death by Michael's men. His blood had dripped onto his son's face, but with his lips, he silently told his son to live well. Emma cried and apologized to James. She hadn't known that he carried such heavy responsibilities and pressure, and had misunderstood him in the past. But he smiled, touched her head, and thanked her for saving him today. Michael's men came to search for the mole and saw James and Emma in their pajamas, looking very close. Michael scolded the subordinates and ordered them out of the room. As soon as they left, he nearly collapsed from exhaustion. Emma checked his wound and found that it had reopened and was bleeding. She became very anxious, but he urged her to stay calm because he couldn't go to the hospital immediately. It would alert Michael. The next day, James drove Emma home. On the way, she suddenly took his hand and told him that he was a hero. No matter what happened, she would stay with him and help him take down Michael's organization. Louis saw them together and became very jealous. He had been an orphan in an orphanage when he was young, while Emma was from a rich family. Later, her parents had sponsored him through school, allowing him to complete his education. But many people had mocked him behind his back, saying he was like a dog raised by her family to accompany her. He fell in love with her, but her father didn't approve of their relationship, believing that he was unworthy of her. From that day on, Louis vowed to climb to the top so that he could get everything he wanted. One day, Emma accidentally found a bank card on the table. Louis lied, saying it was just a regular card. But she recognized it as a VIP card from Michael's organization, a rare card only given to core members or those who had exchanged important intelligence with them. She cried as she confronted him, asking what information he had given to Michael. He shouted back, "Your family's information." He confessed that he had leaked her family's patents to Michael and was an accomplice in the murder of her parents. Emma slapped him hard, asking how he could be so ungrateful and heartless. He pushed her onto the sofa, saying that every penny her family had sponsored him with was a humiliation to him. He grabbed her by the neck, but she pushed him away and cursed him as a murderer. He tightly held her, knocked her down on the sofa, and tried to assault her. Emma grabbed something from the table and smashed it against his head. She ran into the bedroom and locked the door, calling James, but Luis burst into the room and hung up the phone. When James called back, he found that her phone line was busy and could not get through. Luis tied Emma up and locked her in the room. The next day, James learned that Emma had resigned, and her boyfriend Luis was handling her resignation. James became suspicious because Emma had promised to help him take down the bad guys, and she would never have quit at this point. He went to Luis's house and knocked on the door. The neighbor told him that Luis had left early in the morning with his girlfriend. James suddenly remembered that Emma had installed a tracker on both of their phones, so if one of them was in danger, the other could find them in time. She had told James that she was very familiar with this kind of technology and that her family's high-tech patents were all her own work. In addition, she had also installed a tracker on her watch. Using the tracker, James found Emma and untied her. She hugged him tightly and told him about Luis's crimes. He immediately called the police to have them launch a citywide manhunt for Luis. Luis told Michael that Emma was Anna and had not died. He suspected that the person who shot her but allowed her to survive was the mole in their group. James and Emma went to meet Alan, but they were discovered by Michael's men. In order to protect the evidence and witness, James told Emma to take Alan to the police station where they would be protected. He himself planned to drive the car and act as bait to lead the enemies away. Emma took his hand and promised to ensure Alan's safety and find the evidence in the car. He pinched her face and comforted her not to cry, and she hugged him tightly. Later, Emma and Alan found the car and discovered evidence hidden in the spare tire in the trunk, the evidence that would destroy Michael's organization. James was captured by Michael, beaten badly, and left bruised and battered. When he saw Luis working with Michael again, he scolded Luis for being an accomplice to evil, like a rat in the gutter. Luis was furious and splashed a glass of red wine in James's face and punched him. Luis then called Emma and told her that James was in his hands. If she wanted to save him, she had to exchange the evidence. Using her impressive skills, Emma quickly forged fake evidence and prepared to use it to save James, while the real evidence would be taken by the police. She drove James's father's car to the meeting point. She kicked over a gas barrel and warned them not to come any closer, or they would all die together. Later, she told Michael that she had split the evidence into two parts. One half could be checked immediately, and the other half would be handed over after they left the building. After Michael checked the first half, he believed the evidence was real and ordered his men to release James. But Michael, suspicious as always, demanded the second half of the evidence immediately, or they wouldn't be allowed to leave. Just then, the police arrived and arrested Luis and Michael's entire gang. Emma and James were finally able to reveal their true identities, Anna and Bruce, and start a new life. 6 months later, Bruce had married Anna. He took her to watch the sunrise, a spot where his father had often brought him to overlook the beautiful view of the entire city. Anna told Bruce that she was pregnant. He kissed her excitedly. Looking up, he saw his father standing not far away, smiling and blessing them. Love can overcome all difficulties. Justice may be delayed, but it will not be denied.